Heyo, it is Granny. I am back again. So for the last 2 weeks, I have been woefully absent. I've been having all kinds of back issues, but as always, that's not why you're here. But because I'm behind and will be behind until this week when I hopefully catch up, I'm going to do a double recap right now, and then in the next couple of days, episode 6 will be recapped as well. So this is the Critical Role recap for Campaign 4, episodes 4 and 5. So let me grab my handy-dandy notes. So for episode 4, we have Stone-Faced is what it was called. And so right off the bat, Bolaire goes to the fray, which is one moment. Sorry about that. So it starts right off with Bolaire going to the fray, which is kind of a seedy neighborhood, to see about the potter's mark that he found underneath the pots of Hal's paints that Thjazi had left for him. I do not need that light. And so he went to check it out. He runs into the Mercanod twins, which were the ones who tried to kill Teor, and they seem to know him. I'm not entirely sure what his relationship with them is, but there's a familiarity there for sure. He meets with someone called Aloris Drine, not entirely sure. So the two of them are having a meeting. He's obviously some kind of fence, and he blows something in Bolaire's face, which causes him to be unable to act, whether it's like a whole person kind of spell or a paralytic agent. I'm not sure, but he renders him unconscious and takes the mask off of Bolaire. He instantly attempts to put it on and seems to be killed, or at least that's the impression. When Bolaire comes to, he sees his body dead on the floor. Proceeds to take a razor, cut the hair off, cut any identifying marks off the body, and dismember it and dispose of it. That was how we started the episode. We cut to the fact that Occtis has been murdered by his brother. They've removed the heart from him and replaced it with Nightsong Stone. Not entirely sure why. During the battle at House Divinos, Taisha is seriously fucked up and is laying presumably near death. And because she is so near death, she sees Occtis's soul, spirit, whatever you want to call it, moving through that in-between space that we now know is overflowing, because there is no process by which souls pass on, because the gods are all dead. And so she urges Occtis to not go, to come back, which is antithetical to everything that druids are. But she cares for Occtis, and it's really kind of a poignant moment. And against her nature and her beliefs, she asks him to come back. And so he does. He manages to pull the Nightstone from his own chest with help. Not in pulling it out, but other things are happening at that time that we'll come back to. But he pulls the Nightstone out of his chest, and as Brennan described it, his soul fades. Now, supposedly behind the scenes, we found out that this is kind of part of the story arc that had to happen because Alex Ward had made some choices about what he wanted his character to be, and a subclass, I think it's a subclass, that he wanted was to be a hollow one, which is a form of undead. So he knew he was going to die, but in that moment, when Brennan told him that his soul faded, he thought that he'd screwed up, and that was it. So he was really kind of bummed. Everybody else, no one else knew about it, so they were kind of bummed. But when he pulls out when Occtis removes the Nightsong stone, he hears another member of House Taconis, I think presumably his uncle, or at least that's the theory, scream no. Like doing that had somehow screwed up their plans. It was definitely unexpected. Vaelus and Julian fight against the Taconis and the undead once the Taconis pull back, having achieved their goal, which is to destroy House Royce and House Divinos and kill Occtis. So they withdraw through magical means, and not much is left, like, after the fact. No evidence by the time other members show up. But the undead are still behind, and to get to Lady Aranessa, Julian has this moment where, like, he feels this connection with Vaelus, and he's not entirely sure why, but he doesn't know what to do. He's always going to lean more toward Lady Aranessa, and Vaelus tells him she's got this, go. And to her credit, Vaelus goes ham with the undead. Even with some bad rolls from Ashley, she manages to stay on her feet when pretty much everybody else would have been dead. At Hal's house, while all this is happening, Murray and Hal have this letter, Thjazi's letter. It says Bolaire on it, but it was given to Murray, or given to Hal, and Hal gives it to Murray because those were the instructions, was to give it to Murray, even though it says Bolaire. So they decide to open it, and they discover that it's unspecified leverage against Bolaire. Basically, Thjazi has been blackmailing Bolaire to use his connections and his contacts through being a curator of the museum to help move and acquire artifacts, antiquities, things of that nature. And he makes several comments in the letter that Bolaire isn't to be trusted. At one point he says something about he belongs in the museum, not curating it. So they confront Bolaire about what this is all about, because Hal and him, despite the fact that Bolaire did not like Thjazi for obvious reasons now, he very much befriended Hal and wanted to tell Hal the truth anyways. So when Hal presses him and is like, what is this all about? We found this letter. We need to talk about this. Can we trust you? Can we not trust you? What's going on? And so it comes out, and this completely blew my mind. I usually follow the storylines, and I'm not usually completely waylaid by information, but I did not see this coming. I knew something was going on, with the mask. I know that Taliesin is playing a warlock. I know Bolaire is sketchy as fuck, but I wasn't sure of how it all connected. Like, if he was cursed, if he had to wear the mask, what damage, was he undead, was he vampiric, was he, who knows with Taliesin. It's always something different and weird, but this is above and beyond. So it was revealed that Bolaire is the mask. That's the character. It's not Bolaire, it's not a person wearing the mask, it's a mask wearing the person. And so when the other guy put the mask on after killing Bolaire, or what he thought was Bolaire, that body just went away, and now Bolaire is wearing the body of the man who killed him, or tried to kill him. And so he looks a little different. They pick up, Murray notices, on the side of the mask, the skin coloring is a little different. It seems a little more vital. It's really a chef kiss moment. And Taliesin did it really, really well. So it comes out that he is the mask, and he's one of a series of masks that were made by the halflings to fell gods. Like the orcs made the swords, and what the hell was the other one? I think elves made some arrows, or an arrow, a single arrow. They've all, they all contributed to the Shaper Wars, and bringing down the gods, and the halfling contribution. And I'm not entirely sure how that worked, what the masks did. It was described as being able to recreate a play that would fell a god. Not sure how that magic works, obviously bardic in nature, but there it is. And Hal was the first person to make Bolaire after the Shaper Wars. He was just kind of wandering around, got left behind, wore someone around, and became self-aware, and was suddenly, now that the gods were gone, able to live a life beyond his intended purpose. And that's what he was doing, but being kind of separate and above and beyond, mortal comprehension and all that kind of thing. He wasn't really connected. Seeing Hal perform was the first time Bolaire felt again, through watching Hal's performances and the beauty and tragedy of the theater and all of these things. It stirred something in Bolaire, and so he felt a real connection to Hal, and refers to Hal as his only real friend, and how he wanted to tell him many times and just couldn't, because he didn't know what Thjazi would do, especially because that's his brother. So they all go, or some of them go, when they notice that the lights at House Divino are out and it's quiet and like it doesn't look like it does normally. And of course they knew that that was the last place that Occtis went to, and off they go. And there's nothing there. They don't find anything, which in and of itself is a bit odd and off. So when they all wind up meeting up at the Loy estate, which is Thjazi's family home, Occtis's body is there. And Murray and Bolaire work together. Now, Murray had managed to roll a natural 20 on her portent dice as a divining wizard, and used it to apply to this thing, where they were actively trying to bring Occtis back. Keeping in mind that there's never been a mortal resurrection in living memory, as far as anyone knows. But they give it the old college try anyway. And they do manage to, quote-unquote, resurrect him. But not really. He's basically a living dead at this point. He doesn't have a heartbeat. He doesn't have to breathe. When he wants to breathe, he needs to really concentrate on it. Everything's a little off. He's cold to the touch. He's not going to age. He doesn't eat, or he doesn't need to eat. He doesn't have any interest in it anymore, which is something that was kind of part of Occtis's character. All of that's gone. He's just a little off, a little different. And Julian immediately tries to attack him because he doesn't understand why everybody's like, oh, Occtis is back. Because again, people don't come back from the dead. And so Julian's like, what the fuck? You guys just automatically trust him? Like, his family just came in and slaughtered my entire family and most of Lady Aranessa's fucking family, and died in some fucked up dark ritual of some sort, and now he just popped back up and everybody's okay with this. So although he was really douchey about it, I kind of get where he was coming from, because they've never seen this before. But, you know, people who like Occtis and or in Thjazi's case, you know, have genuine affection, love Occtis, they don't care about that. They just want him back. So they manage, mostly with Lady Aranessa's help, to stop Julian from killing him. And Lady Aranessa asks Occtis what he saw, like on the other side, what he saw. So that's pretty much episode 4. In episode 5, we start with the soldier table, and Brennan kind of opened up with asking each of them what they were focused on, what they were feeling about everything that was going on. So, like, they recapped, and Thimble was feeling very focused on justice/vengeance. She's obsessed with making Thjazi's death mean something, making it right, because it wasn't supposed to happen, and in her mind it happened on her watch. And I think she really feels like it's her fault in some way. But now she's got a target, which is Casimir, and finding out what that's all about. Teor is reflecting on how much he doesn't know. He says that, you know, he hadn't seen his brother in a long time, and it seems like his brother has had this whole other life that he knew nothing about, and he had found this purpose, and, you know, gotten tied into Thjazi and everything that was going on, and was part of trying to rescue Thjazi. And so, and then Casimir, he knew from the Falconer's cry, or the Falconer's rebellion, and so he thought he knew this guy, but now he finds out that Casimir's the one who betrayed Thjazi to make sure that his execution happened. So, yeah, Teor is just kind of like, these people I thought I knew, a lot's changed. It's not what it was, and so, yeah, that's a big deal. And so he's kind of reflecting on that. Tyranny is adjusting to the fact that, how did she put it? She's more domesticated than she thought she was. I think she's been kept in her little gilded cage following the part she was supposed to play as, devoted aspirant to Wick. And now being outside, in the rain with no real means, possibly in danger, she's dealing with that. Cadigan is a little disturbed by the fact that he's excited. He's on the edge, like this hunt for Kaz is starting, and he's kind of in his element. Because he's mostly, I get the impression he's mostly been kind of retired and doing his own thing and just kind of cruising through life, and now suddenly he's being brought back. Like, I think Robbie described it as, when you run into somebody from your old hell-raising days, like, sometimes that can be a good thing to kind of go down memory lane for a minute and then go back, and sometimes it can pull you under and you wind up regressing in a direction you didn't want to. So it's kind of that, and we're not sure which way Cadigan's going to go. And the impression that we had going into episode 5 was that it was going to be the soldiers' table, but everyone was present and they hopped around quite a bit, actually. So that was the cold open, is kind of reflecting on how everyone was feeling. And then when we came back from the opening titles, we're back with Julian and the gang at the Loy estate. And Julian tells Occtis in no uncertain terms, buckle up, because you've now got a new shadow. I'm not leaving your side. Anywhere you go, I go. Because he's counting on House Taconis quickly finding out that Occtis is not where he's supposed to be, which is dead, and that they'll be coming for him again. And when they do, Julian plans to be there. So he's kind of a bodyguard for Occtis, but not for any altruistic motives or intentions. It is strictly to get revenge on everything that just happened, which makes sense. Azune tries to talk to Julian and connect with him, and that's when we find out that they know each other. Well, certainly Azune knows him. Julian doesn't remember him, and so he tries to kind of refresh his memory and tells him that he was by Thjazi's side during the Falconer's rebellion, where Julian fought against them. And so Julian immediately thinks, oh, so you must be really fucking happy that my whole family was wiped out. And, Azune tries to unburden him from that idea. It's like, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that we're all in a really fucked up situation, and going forward, you're going to have to trust people, and these people are going to have to trust you. Julian's not really having it, and that's when he comes in and tells Occtis what he tells him. Now, with Azune, I'm having a hard time because I have heard and honestly, Luis said he was going to address it, that at some point it was going to come up, so I don't know what that means. But his name has been pronounced both ways, and I think both ways are accurate. Like, I don't know. It's Azune and it's Azune. I don't know what that is going to lead to, if anything, but he sprinkled that little breadcrumb out there. So in all the discussion about Occtis, because obviously people are very concerned about this, something strange happens. There's this really intense, heated moment where everyone is trying to ascertain the importance, the value, the power, the abilities, the reason behind the Night Song Stone. And so Murray has taken it, out of him and helped him remove it, and has been floating it with Mage Hand because she doesn't want to touch it. She doesn't know what the fuck it's going to do. Nobody does. And so they're kind of looking at it like an active grenade or bomb, right? And so they're being really, really careful. And while they're discussing what's going to happen, and it's just kind of hanging there in the air, Vaelus goes over and attempts to take it. Keeping in mind that this stone is the whole reason that Vaelus came here, because Thjazi stole it from her. Thjazi and Thimble stole it from her. Now, we don't know what Vaelus's true motivation is, whether she's devoted to her god, resentful of her god. We don't know. But we know that the stone is important to her people, and that she specifically is responsible for it. And so she came to retrieve it. And it comes out, as they hinted at originally, Bolaire is the one who let her into the city so that she could kind of crash the funeral and try to get the stone. And when questioned about it, he was just hoping, because he didn't know that their plan was going to be spoiled and that Thjazi was going to actually be executed. And he was kind of hoping that if Vaelus came in and confronted him over the stone, maybe she could fix the problem of being blackmailed and he wouldn't have to deal with Thjazi anymore. But as soon as she does, everyone starts arguing about her not having it. Taisha, for some reason, is adamant that she should not have it. And up until this moment, up until Taisha being upset by the way that Vaelus came into the funeral, because she did come in hot. She was kind of disrespectful and a little bit of a jerk, but she was pissed. Regardless of how other people felt about Thjazi, he stole from her, and he stole something sacred and important to her. So, yeah, she didn't have a whole lot of sympathy or tact coming into the situation, so I understand that. But beyond that, she hasn't had any real beef or problem with Taisha, but Taisha all of a sudden was, adamant that she didn't get it. Hal was just kind of watching, observing, trying to figure shit out, doesn't want, Taisha to do anything that could get her hurt or killed. She's almost died once already, and they still love each other. You can see it every time they interact. And then all of a sudden, Bolaire jumps in and starts threatening Vaelus. And Vaelus, comes right back at him. He winds up using command on her to, get her to try to give up the stone. They have this whole confrontation where Bolaire's only concern is that she not abandon Occtis now that she has the stone. And so he doesn't want her to have the stone until she promises that she will not abandon Occtis. Now, I don't understand necessarily why Bolaire suddenly seems very focused on Occtis, other than what he represents by being quote-unquote alive again. But suddenly Occtis is very important to Bolaire, and I'm not entirely sure why. And again, Lady Aranessa, who was a great NPC to kind of mediate and tamp down when tempers flare up and shit gets hot. She's a great voice of reason, because as of yet, Azane is the only one in the group, and Hal are the only two in the group that I have seen that represent that even-tempered voice of reason, and they're not always listened to, which is odd. I think Azane, because he's so young, maybe, and a lot of people in the group kind of remember him from when he was young and still kind of look at him that way. And Hal, because, you know, Hal's the bard. He's the nice guy who didn't know about any of this, wasn't involved in his brother's life like that. It seems like Thjazi really wanted to protect him and keep him away from the shit that he was into, which we're still not entirely clear what that shit was. But he makes her swear that she's not going to abandon Occtis, which she says, and I believe, she had no intention of doing, because she also is very fascinated with Occtis. She was fascinated with Occtis and Pincushion before he died, and now she's really fascinated. So I don't think she's going anywhere in that regard, but nobody was listening. So this is the point that I really, it's my first time, at least in this campaign, really like getting mad at the group because like everyone came down on what's going to happen with this stone, and the whole time I'm like screaming at the screen, it's not your stone, it never was your stone. Like, why is everyone dictating what's happening with this thing that doesn't belong to them, and they're mad about the rightful owner trying to get it back? It was a really strange dynamic, and like Murray was also like really sketchy about, I don't know if you should have it, and it's like, guys, I know Thjazi, as far as it has been portrayed from the beginning to this point, was like this, to most of them, this great hero, this great inspiration, you know, this veteran of the Falconers Rebellion. But we don't know, you know what I mean? We don't know what he was into. We don't know what he was up to. He might have had noble and good reasons for blackmailing Bolaire or for stealing from Vaelus, but we don't know that. We just know he was doing some sketchy shit, and Vaelus has every reason to be pissed off. And she has seen the relationships to Thjazi, and to some degree first with his family at the funeral, with Hal specifically and his interaction with his children, and with Taisha, and then, you know, now with Occtis and everything. She's been moved by these interactions, and so she's now becoming invested. But everyone else acting like she's the bad guy is really fucked up to me. And Critical Role does this a lot. They challenge your values as far as, okay, am I going to root for these guys because this is my team no matter what they do, or am I going to like go, that's fucked up, and say so. It's always interesting. So that kind of threw me, but in the end, Vaelus does have the stone, but she's still with the group. So we'll see how that goes. And then Azune makes an interesting suggestion. Occtis obviously has to leave the city because his family, the House Taconis, is going to know he's not dead, and they're going to be looking for him. Lady Aranessa is also not safe. Her home is probably under attack, if not destroyed, the same as House Davinos, and she needs to know who's left, if anyone. But if no one's left, then she's the last member, and they're going to be hunting her. She can't stay. And so they decide that Julian, Occtis, Taisha, and Lady Aranessa are all going to head out to the east towards a power base for House Taconis, and also check on her home, and see what's going on. So those are the Seekers, I believe. That's the Seekers table. And so they're going to head off, but Azune says that some should stay behind, and they should work on sowing seeds of dissent among the Sundered houses, because they always turn on each other. And so if they can get that to happen sooner rather than later, that bodes best for them. So Hal is going to stay behind along with himself, Bolaire, and Murray, and that's going to be the Schemers table, and they're going to see what they can do, because all of them have prominent places in which they can have some contact with these houses and possibly sow some dissent. Occtis gives Azune his signet ring, his house ring, and they're going to see if they can make the Halivars or one of the other houses think that with the destruction of House Davinos, that the Taconis will be coming for one of them next, and kind of stir that paranoia and those problems and see what's going on. So that is the plan there. Meanwhile, we switch back to the soldiers' table, and we get Cadigan, Thimble, Wick, Teor, and Tyranny trying to track Sid and Casimir. They opt to, they kind of figure it out, and they think that Sid would have taken a path through the woods, which is more dangerous, but more of a direct path. And so with Cadigan's abilities, they manage to track a general idea, and they decide to ditch the horses and go through the woods. So they go into this very small town by the crossroads, where you can take the King's Road or you can go through the woods, and they tie off the horses, and they notice a man hanging in a gibbet outside the local tavern, and Thimble recognizes him. His name is Aberlang, and he is a former associate of Thimble and Thjazi, a thief of sorts. And so he says that he was part of an ambush on a caravan of House Halivar, which of course perks Wick's ears right up, and they obviously got caught, and so now he's hanging in a gibbet. And so they start talking, and Thimble manages to mess with the lock, get him out. He's been there for a while. His legs aren't working too well, so Teor heals him, gives him a few gold. They let him have the horses. He's having a good day. So he decides in no uncertain terms, after they suggest strongly that should he run into anyone, he gives them some bullshit story about how, Wick was the one who put him in there, and, they went in the opposite direction. He didn't see anything. He doesn't know anything. So in gratitude for that, he tells them, depending on where they're going, there are two places, one along the King's Road and one in the woods, Tehavane Wood. There's a watchtower, and someone he knows there named Albid, that if they drop his name, they can rest there safely for the night or whatever. And so they decide to go through the woods, and that's what they do. As they're going there, Thimble meets a water nymph, a river fairy. She's literally hiding in the water. Thimble just happens to catch her. And so she goes down to investigate, and this fae's name is Brook Meadow? Yeah, Brook Meadow. And so she asks if Thimble's safe, because she doesn't trust big people, as she puts it. And Thimble's like, oh, no, we're friends. It's good. We're safe. Or I'm safe. And she's like, okay. So she tells her about something called Hawthorne Glade? Glade. I think it's Hawthorne Glade. And it's a safe haven for fae, because remember, the gateway to what is the Feywilds, or the Fey realm when the gods died, was locked off. So anyone caught on this side is just caught on this side. So it's a safe haven for the Fae. Big people aren't allowed, and she lets Thimble know where it is. And so they go their separate ways. Thimble comes back and tries to pass off that she just, intuited all this from some matted fur that she found from Sid. But she had talked to Brooke, and Brooke had seen Sid. She avoided him, didn't interact with him in any way, but, she gave some information about the direction he had gone in, and so Thimble comes back with this information, and they're all kind of looking at her sideways like, fur. You found this out from fur. Okay. But I think Laura rolled really well on her deception, and so they kind of shrug and go with it. So they do come to the watchtower, and they do find Albid. He's an arcanist. He's a little gnome guy. And they mention Aberlang, and he gives them hospitality. Offers to let him stay the night, gives them, a bowl of porridge. They talk a lot. Travis is immediately suspicious, because he's been in like two things with, I think two things, at least one with Brennan in like alternate EXU type shit, and Brennan is always harsh. And so, or as Travis says, he's brutal, and so he doesn't trust anything. But as he's talking to him, because even though they've been told that this is a safe space, him and Cadigan kind of take shifts to keep guard, to keep watch. And Teor takes first shift and talks a lot with Albid. There's a big banner on Albid's house, but it's in Gnomish, and so he can't read it. And so while he's talking, he talks about it, basically says, welcome home. And so he has three daughters that are missing, and have been missing for about 15 years. And, excuse me, my alarm was going off. They've been missing for about 15 years. And, he still has their toys around. And he becomes really sad, and there's like this really intense moment. And you come to find out his 3 daughters, Sarabelle, Demuriel, and Alanadel, they went off, as he says, to answer the Falconer's cry. So they went off to join the Falconer's rebellion way back when, and they never came home. He could, and he talks about how it might be easier to know that they weren't coming back, but he can't really bear that. Not knowing allows him to still have hope. And he talks about he could go out and try to look for them, but what if they came back and no one was here? And he's a widower, so like his wife has already passed, and so Teor, because he now has the banner from the Falconer's War, kind of like shows it to him, and there's this moment of connection, and it's really kind of sweet and tender, but also really heartbreaking. And Teor tells him that if he happens to hear of any of the 3 women, or comes across them, or learns of them, he'll send word or come back and tell him or whatever. And so that was a really nice moment too. And he does, Albert does have this moment where, because they're talking about some of the toys that are in the house, that were the girls, and he's hidden away the soldiers and like the war toys that they always wanted to play with. They were all kind of tomboys, and he questions himself, and maybe he shouldn't have let them play with those things. And Teor kind of tells him, well, you inspired those women to go out and fight injustice and stand up for what's right and all that kind of stuff. So it's a really sweet moment. And for some reason, during Cadigan's watch, he finds one of the toy soldiers that's kind of in disrepair and has been a little rotted away from like termites and whatnot. And he has this long moment where he's really kind of fixated on it, and then he throws it, like outside the house, he throws it away. And he's just kind of lost in his thoughts. But we have no idea what's going on internally with Cadigan at that moment. We just know that that's what he does. And we see it, but we don't know much else. So that was episode 5. It's getting really deep. Watching the dynamics of these groups and how they interact has been very, very interesting. I really thought if I was going to have any moments of being pissed off at any of the characters, that it was obviously going to be Julian. It was going to be Matt's character. But the more I see Julian, he's just damaged. In fact, unless Brennan does something awful to Hal's family, I think Hal, for once, isn't the sad boy. I think it's Julian. He's a little misguided for sure. I don't necessarily agree with his point of view, but I get how he got there. Yeah, and Brennan is doing an incredible job. He has this. The only thing I'll say, and I won't compare the two. I know a lot of people want to compare him and Matt. It's apples and oranges. They just approach things very differently. They are both at the top of their game in what they do. Period. Full stop. And I'm not comparing the two. I will say that Brennan seems sometimes like I have, it's weird. I have this mixed reaction to Brennan. Like I love watching him DM, especially when he's DMing something serious, or dramatic, as opposed to campy or funny. Although he does that really well too. He seems to have things thought out. Like, he's always layered. I don't know if anyone's going to understand this reference, but he kind of reminds me of Columbo as a DM, Peter Falk. He comes across sometimes in the way that he presents the narrative like he's just riffing off the cuff, like he's not quite sure what's going to happen next or how he's going to do something. Sometimes he, backtracks. I don't know. He always kind of looks distracted. Do you know what I mean? And yet, in the end, there's always the gut punch that he always knew was coming, but he made you think that he was fumbling through. Yeah. If you don't know who Columbo is, it was a detective show in the 70s, 80s, I think. Might have run from the 70s to the 80s. Anyways, and he was kind of always bumbling and making you think he didn't have it going on, and then, oh, just one more question, one more thing, and he'd wind up catching you in this elaborate web that you weren't paying attention to because, he's just a bumbling cop. Brennan does that. He kind of makes it feel like he's just kind of improv riffing and doesn't really know where shit's going, and then he closes the net and you realize he had a plan the whole fucking time. It's gonna be a good campaign. I have no doubt. It's been really intense so far, and we're still just laying the groundwork. So yeah, that's it. I'm going to try really, really hard to stay on top of the episodes and not have to double up like this again. We'll see how it goes. But yeah. So I should do one more in the next day or two that has, probably Monday or Tuesday, that has episode 6, and then after Thursday's episode, I will try very hard to stay on my putting it up Saturdays. We'll go from there. Yeah, and of course you can find the links to the original content and all that kind of stuff down below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I really appreciate the comments. It helps so much, the algorithm, for any kind of interaction as opposed to just the likes. Although I will take the likes, don't misunderstand. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you know when some new content drops. You should definitely check out my reaction to the first episode of The Mighty Nine, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.